Hello there, you're welcome back to Biology Lectures with Akirili Oladimiji Philip. It's my wonderful pleasure to have you with me on the lecture. So we'll be looking at some questions on paper 2 GCSE, and of course, this is GCSE curriculum, but it's relevant to anybody offering biology because homeostasis we'll be looking at here. We'll be looking at hormonal coordination actually. So it's homeostasis is one of those common topics in biology generally, all various curriculum in different countries. So, but basically, for the specification of this year, I'm going to just focus on what the examination body wants for the year. So I'm just going to focus on that part. If you've seen the notifications, the specification for the year, you get what I'm saying. So it says, explain how blood glucose levels are controlled in the body of someone who does not have diabetes. All right, it's okay. It's a 4-marker question. Okay, it's gonna be when glucose level is high, insulin is secreted from the pancreas. Insulin converts excess glucose into glycogen. When glucose level is low, glucagon is secreted from pancreas. Glucagon converts stored glycogen into glucose. Now, quickly, I want you to pay attention to what I'm going to be highlighting now. What I just did here was to show you the fact that, okay, so it means glucagon is helping to increase glucose level, while insulin is helping to increase it, so to say. So to reduce it. Let me say that part again. Now, it means that from here, all of what happened here was talking about how glucose level is brought down to a normal level. And this one talks about how it is increased back to normal level. So it means, it says here, when glucose level is low, all right, so that stimulates the pancreas to release glucagon. And glucagon will do what? Convert the glycogen that was stored in the liver. It's usually stored in the liver, in the skeletal muscles, basically. Those are the places it's stored, maybe in the fat muscles also, or in the fat cells, I mean to say. So this is the metabolism of what happens to glucose. It's a brief explanation, just a 4-marker question. In fact, the point I give is actually even more than that, really. But this is what you're expected to do. When glucose level is high, insulin is secreted. What would insulin do? Convert the excess glucose. That's why I wrote it here. I said convert excess glucose into, convert excess glucose into glycogen for storage. Then when glucose level is now low, below normal, then glucagon is secreted from the same pancreas to do what? Convert the glycogen that was stored earlier on back to glucose. That's very important. Now it says here, compare how each type of diabetes is caused. Suggest how each type of diabetes can be treated. Okay, so I think we should talk about the cause first. Afterwards, to talk about how it's been treated. It's a 4-marker question, so it means that diabetes 1 is caused by insufficient or let me just say it's caused by deficiency of insulin. Basically, that's what happens. All right. Then diabetes type 2 is caused when cells are not responding to insulin. Now, so we've talked about how they are caused now. So we want to talk about the treatment. So diabetes 1 is treated by insulin injection. Well, sorry, I didn't write that one. While diabetes type 2 is managed by exercising and control of diet. They are often told not to eat much of sugar things anymore, or just find a way to reduce food that can actually lead to increase in sugar level. So this talks about the treatment, while this talks about the more of the how it is caused or what leads to the types of diabetes. All right, hope that is duly noted. Okay, the next question says, a urine test can be used to check for the presence of glucose in the urine. Diabetes can also be diagnosed with a blood test to measure the concentration of blood glucose. Please, I forgot to say at the beginning, make sure you attempt these questions, then you play the video to see what the answer is. Suggest why a blood test is more reliable than a urine test. Okay, well, for one thing is sugar, or let me write glucose. I mean to say glucose. Glucose is always present in the blood, so it might be absent in the urine. Blood test shows immediate presence of glucose. So, and also there are other factors that could even make you have glucose in your urine. So it's not reliable. So basically, glucose is always present in the blood, so it might not be present in the urine. So you can't rely on that. Or blood test shows immediate presence of glucose, really. So that's why. So it's a one marker question. So I just wrote two answers so you can pick any of the two. A blood test called the glucose tolerance test checks how well the body processes glucose. Concentration of glucose in the blood are measured before and after drinking a glucose drink. Patients are not allowed to eat food for 8 hours before the glucose tolerance test. Suggests why patients are not allowed to eat 8 hours before the test. How many marker question? Is 1, okay? Well, basically, the thing is, 8 hours is long enough, it's long enough for insulin to have acted on the glucose from digestion. Yeah, so the food the person has eaten will have digested, and the insulin will have actually work on it. So you can't really get the actual value of the sugar at that point. Now, the next question says, the diagram below shows the result of a glucose tolerance test for two patients, A and B. Okay. Which patient has diabetes? I have to zoom it that way. Obviously, that should be patient A. Yeah, because there's this spike that never came down. This guy came up, but came down again. I mean, the glucose level increased, then came down again. That's because there is insulin that brought it down. But this person, it's just kept increasing, nothing to bring it down. So the answer is, what was that? Patient A. Patient A is the answer. Justification, from what we just saw now, look at the graphic for yourself. You see that let me write this way, the glucose level kept increasing because of absence of insulin. If he or she has insulin, to have brought it down, like this person has. So insulin just brought it down to normalcy there. So you might rewind the video if you have to get that part again. Moving on. Which organ in the body monitors the concentration of glucose or sugar in the body? And that is the pancreas. The pancreas. Why will I say that? Because it secretes insulin and glucagon. Just writing pancreas is enough. I just wrote that one to remind you. Insulin does what? Decrease sugar level or glucose level, while glucagon increases sugar level. You might want to take note of that part. Okay. In a healthy person, insulin prevents high levels of glucose in the blood. To make insulin, cells in the pancreas need amino acids. Amino acids cannot be stored in the body. Describe as fully as you can what happens to amino acids that cannot be stored in the body. Oh, okay. 3 marker. It talks, okay, basically, well, excess amino acids are broken down. It is converted to urea. This takes place in the liver. Okay, the kidney helps to remove urea during ultrafiltration in the kidney. During urine formation, let me just write during urine formation. During urine formation. Yeah, any of this is okay. 3-mark question. It's just to break the point, the whole explanation into points, basically. All right, moving on. Okay, this is another question on hormonal coordination. It says here, endocrine glands produce hormones. Hyperthyroidism is caused by an overactive thyroid gland. Suggest what would happen in the body of a person with hyperthyroidism Well, there will be how do I put this word? Excess production of thyroxine. It could lead to goiter. Goiter is a disease whereby the thyroid gland on the neck swells up, and it could happen that way because there's so much of thyroxine in it, so it can actually swell up. That could lead to goiter. It leads to hyperactivity of the person. Yeah. The one thing thyroxine does is it makes us active. So when you have too much of thyroxine, you're going to be very, very active. It also leads to increase in metabolism. It will lead to how do I put that word? Okay, it leads to increase in basal. There's a way we use, it's an index. Excuse me. Basal metabolic rate, for short, BMR. Yeah. So it could lead to, or you could just say it leads to increase. Just say it can lead to increase in digestion. Or preferably, you should say it leads to increase in metabolism or increase in basal metabolic rate, because the real one major function of thyroxine is it helps in metabolism. All right. So you might want to just pick 3 of those points for your 3 marker here. Describe the role of FSH. You might want to remind yourself what secrete these guys. The 2 guys that secrete these guys is the pituitary gland. Pituitary gland. What's the formula of FSH? Follicle stimulating hormone. Then LH is luteinizing hormone. So it says describe the role of FSH and LH in menstrual cycle. Well, follicle stimulating hormone helps to FSH helps in the maturation of follicles, or say eggs. Let me say something at this point. Sometimes students don't often know what follicle is. If this is the ovary, you have the egg and the cell around it. So the summation, this cell, the egg in the middle, this egg in the middle, and the surrounding cell is what we call follicle. So that I wrote follicles or eggs. So that's why it's called follicle stimulating hormone. It means it stimulates the follicle, which means the egg and the surrounding cells to grow, so to say. Then the function of LH is to stimulate ovulation, or say release of egg. So on day 14 of the menstrual cycle, if like on the 14th, like that's like the middle, so to say, that's when there's a surge. I mean, like the level of LH increases suddenly, and what's the effect of that? It's going to cause the follicle to release the egg in it, and that's called ovulation, so to say. The combined pill is a contraceptive that contains progesterone and estrogen. You might want to pause the video here to read all the questions. In a contraceptive that only contains progesterone, hormone has to be taken at the same time each day to prevent pregnancy. Okay, the success rate of mini pill is in preventing pregnancy is lower than that of the combined pill. Explain why missing a dose of the mini pill. Mini pill means just taking progesterone immediately would reduce the success rate of mini pill. I mean, Mark 4. Interesting. Okay. You know, mini pill is you're using progesterone, and increase in progesterone helps to inhibit. Inhibit means to stop some hormones from working. So I'm going to talk about that now. So progesterone. So now when you miss your dose, or when the person misses her dose, there is some decrease in the progesterone. Please permit the spelling that progesterone. For that reason, there is no inhibition. It means there's no stoppage for FSH. So when progesterone is high, FSH will be lowered. Also, there is no inhibition for LH. LH is luteinizing hormone. So with all of these things in place, what happens is this. This will lead to formation of eggs. Why? Because FSH has not been inhibited, so it will just be working. Also, it will lead to ovulation. Why? Because this LH2 was not stopped. What happened is progesterone helps to stop these two guys. So when you miss your pill, level of progesterone has reduced. Once progesterone reduces, FSH, LH will work. That's why when women are pregnant, the level of their progesterone has increased. So because of presence of progesterone, FSH and LH will not be able to work. So the woman would not go through menstrual cycle during that period. So what mini pill does is to replicate something like that, really. So the progesterone level is high, FSH cannot work. When FSH is not working, follicles cannot be formed. When follicles are not formed, LH will not also be formed, will not be available, is suppressed or is inhibited. When there's no LH, there won't be ovulation. And when there's no ovulation, the woman cannot get pregnant. So you might want to rewind the video if you need to hear that part again, so to say. All right.